You too.
All right, hit the record button here. Welcome everyone. We're excited to be with you this Wednesday evening. My goodness, I'm so excited about this series, this Wellness Wednesday. So if you're a guest, if this is your first time joining us on one of these Wellness Wednesdays, we want to welcome you. Be prepared to take notes if this is the first time you're hearing this information. Somebody that cares about you has invited you, and I promise you we're going to be giving you really important information that you can share with the people that you know and love. So with that being said, I'm excited to introduce Dr. Brett tonight. He's become a really good friend of mine. He is a chiropractor out of Arizona, and he is just somebody that I respect so much because he's so passionate about getting to the root cause and actually helping people. I know that he's had his practice for a very long time. He's very well respected as, I like to call him chiropractor loyalty, but he's super he would never accept that because he's so gracious and humble. So Dr. Brett, we're excited to have you on tonight. Thank you so much for sharing just about this topic tonight. I was sharing earlier that this is a topic of near and dear to my heart because I've seen my grandma struggle with fibromyalgia and chronic fatigue pretty much my whole life. And I think this is...
Jenny,
Yes, I can hear you. You're there. So this is something that I know plagues a lot of people, men and women alike. And I think it's more common than we know. I know it's one of those taboo subjects in a lot of circles as far as traditional medical establishments. So we're really excited to hear kind of a different perspective tonight. And most importantly, the perspective of how we actually deal with this head on, how we actually go about getting to the root cause and actually helping instead of just putting a Band-Aid over and prescribing. So with that being said, I don't know if you can turn on your video. I'm assuming that you're probably somewhere where you can't. But will you just tell us a little bit of your background super quick, and then let us know a little bit about where you think fibromyalgia and chronic fatigue stems from, and why it's one of those subjects that a lot of doctors don't seem to acknowledge. So excited to hear from you.
Well, thank you. Can you guys hear me okay?
We can hear you.
Okay, perfect. All right, so if I cut out, please let me know. Kind of a crazy night, so I'm not going to be on video here in a second, but I appreciate you asking that question. And Jenny, I laugh anytime anybody says chiropractic royalty, because I have some friends of mine that harass me all the time about that, because my dad's been in the profession so many years, and he's literally kind of known that way. So sometimes you're just adopted in that way, so it does make me kind of giggle. But I appreciate you saying the other things about it. You know that I care. I really do want people to have options and know how to get well and stay well. And unfortunately, every time I'm seeing patients, I'm literally seeing people that have struggled for many times years and decades, and just looking for answers. And so I'm grateful to be here with you guys. So you asked me the question about this fibromyalgia thing. And if you've been around long enough about fibromyalgia, literally people all the time are saying, they've been told it's in their head and it's not really real, and they just don't know what to do with it. So I happened to pull something up tonight. It's called PubMed.gov. Are you guys familiar with that? Right? And in there, it talks about treatments for fibromyalgia and chronic fatigue. And they listed a bunch of medication. And I thought it was kind of fascinating, the medication they listed. One of them was antidepressants. So if that truly is, so I want you to ask yourself the question, what's the cause of any problem you have? Not what's the symptom, but what is the cause? And so, hold on one second.
Well, it's not really true.
That's okay. So literally, guys, so I have a youth group I'm in charge of tonight. And so that's my son I'm just dropping off, and I told him to meet up with him in just a second. That's one of the beauties of what we get to do, Jenny. We get to kind of do life while we do this, because I think it's so important that we have this information. I literally grew up with my dad having people come to our house and getting treated. That's how I grew up. And I would have to go set the adjusting table up that he could treat them. That's how I grew up. And so I got to hear these stories firsthand from the time that I was little about, people struggling for many times, decades, and on 20 plus medications. But going back to that conversation that I said about the medications that they were recommending, antidepressants. So what that tells you, if they're giving you antidepressant to try to control pain or fatigue, right? Antidepressants work in your brain. So maybe there's a brain-based problem when it comes to chronic fatigue or fibromyalgia. Another one that they did was just a pain drug. Another one was like amitriptyline. Another one was for the gut. And so I was like, it made me kind of giggle a little bit. I looked at different medications. It's like, okay, so if you're dealing with fatigue, severe fatigue, and it's not just fatigue of like, hey, I can't get up for a morning. It's like, I literally can't get up for a long time. Or having pain that literally doesn't allow you to do anything. And so as you read through the studies on fibromyalgia, they talk about that it's linked to imbalances in the systems of your body that help your body create energy and in your body's ability to repair. Like that's literally the cause of the problem. So if the cause is the body can't repair as fast as it needs to, or it can't produce enough energy, why don't we ask a question around, is there a way that we can get the body to manufacture more energy? And is there a way that we can get the body to literally be able to repair faster? And just so you know, this system is in every single human. So you may not be feeling things that would be labeled as fibromyalgia, where you hurt all over the place, right? Or where you just like, you just can't get as many. And sometimes the fatigue is not the body fatigue, it's a brain fatigue. What that's telling you is that your ability to repair is not as great as the demand you're placing on it, or your body can't make enough energy to do the things that you want to do. So what if we address that? So whether you've been diagnosed with chronic fatigue or fibromyalgia, or you haven't, or you're struggling with something else, just know the root cause of most problems is your body's ability to make energy or repair faster. And I liken a lot to a business. Cash flow solves a lot of issues in business. So having money. Well, in your body, that's energy in the form of ATP. And I can still remember in a class at college, and we were someone was talking about this particular condition, chronic fatigue, and they're saying when you see this, you need to refer it out. I'm kind of a quiet guy in general, especially in a class. Like I'm not going to question my teacher, but I found myself getting really upset because, and I finally said something to the instructor. I said, "You're telling us to refer out for things I watched my dad work with for years and decades, helping people with." And what he would do is he would look for the root cause of the problem, remove the obstructions that were there, and improve the systems that he could. And we used to literally use, over 200 different vitamins, minerals, and supplements that he created to try to address the deficiencies that people had. Maybe they had a vitamin D deficiency or B12 deficiency. That's the way we looked at it. We were just lacking ingredients. And that is part of it. But not every single person that had fibromyalgia was deficient in vitamin D or responded to vitamin D or vitamin C or zinc. But what we found out over time is that, and that's why I love what we get to do, Jenny, is we get to understand now there's a way to activate genes to improve the functionality of assembly lines in our body to where those assembly lines can then reduce oxidative stress or can improve the body's ability to manufacture energy. And so going back to the root cause of all problems, lack of repair, lack of energy, and lack of communication, period. No matter what you want to call it. Like if you have those, any one of those out of balance, you're going to have imbalance in the cell, which leads to imbalance in organs, which leads to imbalance and dysfunction in humans. No matter where it is, you just feel it differently. And that goes back to also imbalance in gut function. Because if you don't have balance in all of those systems, you're going to have issues and you're going to feel it just based upon predispositions and genetics, and even what level of stress you're under.
I love it. I mean, when we're talking about the foundation, every time that I talk about activation, it's all about having that firm foundation, right? I always like to liken our body to be like, it's like a house. It's like building a house, right? I also like to compare it to a car engine. People are so willing to go, take care of their cars every 3,000 miles, change out that engine fluid, right, to make that engine work properly. But when it comes to our own bodies, sometimes it takes a second back seat. And so what I love that you're talking about here, Dr. Brett, is that we've actually found a way to get to that foundational root problem, restoring that ATP, restoring that mitochondrial function. I love that. Let's talk a little bit about oxidative stress and inflammation, because I know that, of course, you covered gut health. And I think that's kind of gone mainstream now, is like our immune system resides in our gut. But let's talk a little bit more about oxidative stress and the role that it plays. Because I think when we're talking about activation, we found a way to reduce that by 40%, right? That inflammation. Yep. So can you cover a little bit how that affects chronic fatigue and fibromyalgia?
Yeah, for sure. So, so for you guys that don't know what oxidative stress is, it's literally rusting. So oxidizing the metal, we call that rust. So in the human, we call it oxidative stress, and it really is linked to hundreds of diseases, right? So oxidation in your joints, they call it arthritis. Oxidation in your brain, when it's super, super, super severe, would be Alzheimer's. So it's just not a good process. And it typically, the longer you have it, the faster you age, right? And so your body has mechanisms in place to try to reduce or repair that oxidative stress. And that's through big cleanup people. I like them to mom. Like mom cleans up way faster than the kids, right? So too many kids, not enough moms, we have a lot of oxidative stress, okay? And so in your cells, those are enzymes called superoxide dismutase, catalase, glutathione. Right. And so for really decades as clinicians, we just tried to give the body the ingredients to make more. Well, with the idea of activation and gene testing, we now can actually turn on these cell switches to manufacture your own. And that's literally what the Protandim Nerve 2 is. It is a gene, it's one of the first kind that actually activates gene expression, so your body can manufacture more cleanup people. So that's why we can reduce that oxidative stress inside the cell by 40% in 30 days, which we can clinically show. And that's critical, because if the cleanup doesn't happen inside the cell, then you have inflammation. And when you have inflammation, you have tissue breakdown, right? And it really doesn't work until it's inside your cell. So for our ability to say that we know it's working inside the cell because we're getting the body to produce these big enzymes is a giant, giant deal.
Yeah, no, I love when I hear that. The analogy that you used, by the way, was genius. When we're talking about cell death, right? I hope I get this right. Is it apoptosis? I'm not even that smart.
Yeah, apoptosis, yeah. Cool word.
I know. I've just been hanging out with you for so long, so you're kind of rubbing off on me. But when you're talking about cell death, I mean, we're talking about so many things, and without, like I said, guys, we're not making medical claims. We're not claiming to cure, treat, prevent, or mitigate disease. But when you think about how many issues in the body stem to that initial core problem, that's where you understand why the information that I know that we're talking about today, I believe has the potential to change the world. I mean, we have so many things going on, so much information around us today, that I really believe that I want to encourage you, especially if you're a guest watching this tonight, dig deeper into what we're talking about. Go into PubMed, look at oxidative stress, and the link, type in oxidative stress, and you'll see for yourself the link that it has to pretty much, like Brett said, over 200 issues in the body. I love what Marilee says. She's talking about the issue that she's had for years. So Brett, is there anything else you'd like to add? I'd love for you to maybe just, if you can have maybe a couple minutes, talk about a little bit of the gut process. We have solutions for everything. So
yeah, let me kind of summarize this, because like the supplement industry is giant, and we know it helps people. All right. But there's a lot of guessing going on. All right. And so no matter what supplements you use, most people don't feel anything. Okay. And most people don't feel disease until they feel it. The process has been going on many times for decades before you feel it. Okay. So when your systems aren't functioning ideally, it's a problem. So I truly forever, like when we work with people, we start with healing the gut, because if you don't do that, you don't absorb your other nutritions. So that's a foundation. Okay. And then I look at the system. So if I can improve the oxidative stress by activation of my cells to manufacture more of that cleanup crew, and then I can get your body to make more energy through mitochondrial function, and then I can get the cell to communicate through what's called sirtuin activation, well, then I know I'm addressing the biggest systems of the body that I can. So whether you're into prevention, like not ever having a problem, or you're into this maximizing the repair that's going on, then this is the beautiful way to do it. And we don't have to guess. Like, so most supplements are, you read about vitamin C and it's a vitamin C, but you don't know what type, what brand, how it was made, where it's from. So you don't know the end result that's going to happen in a human cell. Okay. When you're using products that are nutrigenomically tested, patented, to show they have a certain effectiveness, I don't have to guess if it's going to activate a human cell. If you're a human, we know it activates those human cells that way. I love having that confidence as a clinician, but also as a father, to make sure when I get up into my kids that I know I'm giving their body the best chance to literally repair and handle the insults that are going on around it.
I love that. And I love the concept of deadly antioxidants too, because when you talk about over supplementing the body and absorption, and, you know, if you over supplement, you can actually create more of an issue. I've heard a lot of different podcasts and information on over supplementing and not being able to absorb it. Then it becomes toxic, almost like increasing that toxic load, especially when you're talking about methylation pathway defects and all the ability for the body pre-genetically not to absorb things. I think it's huge. So wow, I've loved what you covered, Dr. Brett. I just adore you so much. Is there anything that I know you've got to get into those.
No, I really like what we're talking about here, guys. If this is your first look at that, this is what we want you to know. There's hope, right? And as you watch the thread of text and stuff that are here, and you're going to hear this story, is that I can't tell you how many people's stories are different once you can know you're activating the cell response. So just like with Marilyn, I see that the situation she's been going on for years and how it changed hers, or people that struggle with fatigue and pain for years, it's changed because when you get those systems, very few people are born with fatigue and born with pain. Okay, there may be some, very few people are. That means that the process over time of life gets the best of our systems and we start manifesting dysfunction. So if you can turn on those cells to do what they did when they were younger, through specific patented technology, then you have an ability to influence the whole person. So I'm excited for them to hear some story, but I appreciate you guys. Let me hop on real quick. I do apologize. I got to run, but I don't think anybody else wants to take care of these 14-year-olds.
I respect you for doing that. Thanks so much, guys. Thanks so much.
Bye, guys.
Bye. Awesome. So glad you guys got to hear from him. So we're going to turn it over to two very special ladies, Miss Shirley Richards. I want to give you a background on Shirley. When I met her, she literally couldn't walk. In fact, she came into my car and we had to go kind of on a long car ride, and we had to pull over 2 different or 3 different times because she was in so much pain. And I love Shirley's story because I've just seen such a radical change in her. And she's through it all, even when she was hurting all those years back when I met her about almost 11 years ago. She was always fighting. She had the best mindset, but her body just couldn't help itself any longer. And so Shirley, I'm glad that you're here with us. I know that the mute button's been a challenge for you, so I'm trying to find you over here to unmute you. Let's see. Gosh, we have over 200 people on this Zoom, so I'm hoping that I can find you here. Let's see. I don't know if you can figure out how to unmute yourself.
She's waving.
I know she is. I'm trying to find her here. I can only unmute her when I see her. There's so many people on. So
have her tap on her screen and unmute herself.
Thank you so much. Yeah, we walked through that. Actually, you know what? While I look for her, I'm going to turn it over to Miss Brenda Geary because she's going to share her story as well. And Brenda's got a very powerful story. She's gone through so much. So Brenda, if you can unmute yourself while I find Shirley, that would be so awesome. We're really excited to hear from you. I know Brenda struggled with chronic fatigue and fibromyalgia for years, and we've seen incredible results with her. So it's all yours, girl. Thanks so much.
Absolutely. And another little tip for you, Jenny, is if you go to the participant list and scroll down the participant list, you can unmute her from there as well. So I'm happy to share you guys. It's truly a gift to be able to be here. Brenda Geary, I'm based out of San Diego, and my background was corporate America. I was a VP of Human Resources for many years, and I was always that really healthy person. So for me, I was that person that was, Energizer bunny, tons of energy. until I got sick. And so if you're a guest that's invited tonight to hear this information, and we've talked about oxidative stress and mitochondrial dysfunction and just a ton of different things, if I was sitting here back then, I would have thought, oh, this isn't relevant to me because I don't feel sick. But it really is about doing the things that protect our bodies, because I never would have ever thought that I would have gotten as sick as I did with the fibromyalgia and chronic fatigue syndrome. So for me, it all started with my gut. I developed H. pylori, which is a gut infection, and it took a really long time for that to be healed. I worked for a long time to get that healed. So, our immune system is where it all starts. So it started off with that damage. Well, over time, so starting in 2004, I had those H. pylori infections that opened up for a bunch of other things. I then was subsequently diagnosed with fibromyalgia, chronic fatigue syndrome. You guys, as a VP of human resources, I was always operating at a really super high level, and I was traveling the world. And when I got sick, I lost who I was. I literally lost, I tell people I was just existing. I wasn't living. When I would, Dr. Brett talked about the brain fog. So I did have a ton of pain, but also what was really huge for me was the brain fatigue. I got to a point where everything that I would say, I would literally forget it once it left my mouth. On a scale of 1 to 10 over time, I was always a 10. Sitting hurt. I was wearing my clothing inside out because seams hurt my body. Just even trying to move positions, and with that chronic fatigue as well. So at my sickest, I was in bed 20 hours a day. I was on 24 prescription medications, and it did not feel good. I actually ended up taking a medical retirement. And I was, spending hundreds of thousands of dollars on my medical conditions. And like Dr. Brett mentioned earlier, I was on a ton of medications. In fact, again, not making any claims, but this literally was the cocktail that I was on when I was at my sickest. So we were introduced to the activation products back in August of 2011. We saw the ABC Primetime Report that featured the flagship NRF2 product. And when I saw that ABC Primetime, all I could think about was, what if, because I did not know about oxidative stress, but as I listened to the ABC Primetime and I saw the validation, and they talked about, I subsequently learned about inflammation and the fact that NRF2 lowers inflammation. I was thinking, well, I have nothing to lose. I literally was in so much pain. My husband and I would go to 3 to 4 doctor's appointments a week. I just thought to myself, I have nothing to lose and everything to gain. What if this is the thing? So on faith, we ordered the product, started it. And again, I'm not making any claims, you guys, and it's not magic and it's not a magic pill, right? But giving it time and trusting that the science is there. For me, I got my life back. I literally got my life back. So on a scale of 1 to 10, where that fibro pain was a 10, it's maybe a 1 or a 2 now. That changed my life. From a chronic fatigue perspective, where I was in bed 20 hours a day, where the chronic fatigue was a 10, I still have chronic fatigue, guys. I feel it in my bones every day, but maybe it's a 2. It's like it's in the background. And I do have brain fog still. And that's a challenge for me, my train of thought. However, from a quality of life perspective, my life has changed, and it only changed because I said yes to these products. So if you're a guest tonight, and you decide to say yes to these products, take them consistently. You may not feel anything initially. For me, and this is just my story, but for me, it wasn't until about month number 4 where I really felt like, whoa, something is significantly different here. And now fast forward 10 years later, and even going through a cancer diagnosis and cancer treatment, I'm off of all the yucky stuff, off of all the medications, and I'm healthier and more vibrant today because I kept taking those activators consistently over the last 11 years. Again, be consistent. And I just kind of say, what if, what's possible? So Jenny, I hope this has been helpful.
I love it. And I love that you said, you talked about the consistency. I think people like we live in a society where we want that, like, feel good, feel fast. We have it here, but it's like, you have to think about, like, you have a lifetime of chronic and toxicity and problems going on. It's not going to happen overnight, but you have to start somewhere. So I love that you said that, Brenda, because you've got to give it time and you've got to make those life changes and those life choices, right? Different life choices. I love when I hear the fact that you can't heal in the same environment where you get sick, right? If you want a different result, you have to make different decisions. So I love that you touched on that. I thought that was so powerful. You're so amazing. I found Shirley, and Shirley, I realized why I couldn't find you is because you're in from your iPhone, so it didn't have your name on. So I'm so glad that I found you. Let me see it. I'm asking to unmute you though. You need to say yes. She's so cute. Let me see. No. Hold on. Let me see. Ask to unmute. There's one button, Shirley, Miss Shirley. Well, you are adorable. Can you see? Are you on your iPhone? Oh, goodness. We're going to have to practice. Well, I don't know what to say. I'm trying to unmute you guys. I'll just give you a little bit of background of Shirley's story because I know it so well. She literally had a radical change with activation. Like I said, when I met Shirley, she could barely walk, couldn't get out of the car. Her husband came to me, and I believe this is about 3 to 6 months into her being activated with these products that we've been talking about tonight. And he said, I've never seen this side of my wife. It's been 5 years that she literally would nap all day. They couldn't go on vacations. They couldn't travel. She was struggling she had to take, I think, even an early retirement for her job because she was so unwell. She had so much chronic fatigue, so much inflammation, and so many things going on. And she tried everything. I think when I met Shirley, I think you would go to Sprouts. I think the girl knew you in Sprouts Health Food Store because you had tried everything. You didn't want to go the pharmaceutical route, which, awesome job. You wanted to get to the root, but you couldn't find anything. And so I'm so thankful that you decided to move forward and decided to give these, products a chance. I really have seen just a powerful change, and she's been taking them about as long as Brenda. So think about the compounding effect that she had because she was able to see this information years ago. So as we're wrapping up tonight, you guys, I just want to say that if you're thinking of somebody in the back of your mind, maybe it's not you, maybe it's somebody else. We're going to try to get this recording out. Share this information with them because you have the power to change someone's life, and you have the power to help them in a way that I always say that if I could download my brain into yours as to what I've seen this last 11 years, been so blessed to share this for 11 years, you wouldn't sleep for days. And it's not because of chronic fatigue or fibromyalgia. You literally wouldn't sleep for days. So share this information, get back with the person that invited you tonight, let them know that you want more, you're ready to get started. Whatever it may be, if you're not ready to get started after this, I don't know what else to tell you, but we love you anyway. And we're thankful that you joined us tonight and that you heard this information. So take care, everyone. We'll see you next Wednesday. We have a very special guest next Wednesday, and we're just inviting you to join us as a community every Wednesday and start sharing this information. So we appreciate you. Thank you, Dr. Brett. Thank you, Shirley. Thank you, Brenda. We'll see you guys next time. Take care. Bye-bye now.